Good afternoon. Welcome to Coffee Chat. I am Dyann Duncan, the Women's Ministry Director here at Grace Evangelical Church. And with me today is Cheyenne Sharp. Hi, Cheyenne.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good.
Good. Crazy day at work?
Yes.
Cheyenne works at Mosaic, so I'm sure it's been kind of business as usual, but maybe a little bit more exciting.
Yes, definitely more exciting.
Good.
We're handling things, though.
Oh, I know you are. Yeah, well, I mean, as of right now, I don't think we have any cases.
Not that we know of. Nope.
So that's a praise God. Also, I don't know when you're going to be viewing this, but there could be some by the time this gets seen. But we just know that God has it under control.
Yep.
This disease did not surprise him at all. He knew that it was coming. And thank God he's in control and not me.
Absolutely.
Or anybody else. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day.
Yeah.
And I just want you to introduce yourself. I know you're married to Jeremy Sharp, who is the media director here at Grace.
Yes.
But you're the mother to Collings, but you're the stepmother to
6 more. Abby, Tori, Haley, Elijah, Caden, and Journey.
All right, 6 stepchildren.
Ranging in age from 24 to 16. Abby will be 24 on Thursday.
Wow, 24 to 16. And then Collings is 7?
Sorry, Abby will be 25.
Ooh,
25.
25.
Yes.
And Collings is 7, 6?
5.
5. Oh my gosh, I had her too old.
Yep.
Okay, and she's 5. So you have quite the dynamic
Yes.
when you all get together, huh?
Yes, we do.
So, because you also have grandchildren.
7. 7 kids and 7 grandkids.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they're ranging in age from 5 to 4 months.
Well, that's a party at your house every time everybody gets together,
Yes,
huh?
it's insane. In a good way, but
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
it's insane.
I bet it's fun. So that's why I had you here today. I have asked you to participate with us in these coffee chats. I'm trying to pick women that attend Grace that have a relationship with Jesus Christ, but also can speak life into us. I'm trying to be very intentional about these coffee chats, and I'm wanting to focus with you today on step parenting.
Okay.
That is a dynamic that I am not an expert on. I have no experience being a step parent, but you have 6 stepchildren. So what I'd like to start with is I want to hear, how did you come to know Jesus Christ as your personal Savior?
So I was 20 and didn't grow up in the church. Of course, always believed in God, but didn't really, I don't think, knew really what that meant until I was 20. And I got invited to a Bible study, and it just all kind of made sense. And then maybe a week after that, got invited to like a college group at a church that isn't around anymore. But just accepted Christ that day and just changed basically everything that I was doing.
No, I understand that. You grew up in a small town. Mm-hmm. Your family is very important to you.
Yep.
I know your mom is a big helper with your family. Always has been. Mm-hmm. And that's a neat thing. Your mom is a huge blessing.
Yes.
So when you met Jeremy, actually, why don't you tell us how you met Jeremy?
I actually met Jeremy at that same Bible study. I continued going, and it was probably, I would say a month or so into it that I met him. We didn't start talking or anything for probably a good 4 months or 5 months after that, but that's where I initially had met him, knew who he was, that kind of thing. Came with his guitar in hand, sang worship at the Bible study.
Of course,
Yeah.
typical Jeremy. So when you met him, how long did it take before he asked you out?
Well, like I said, we didn't actually talk again. It was probably 3 or 4 months later. And then we hung out as a group, as like a church group. We all hung out. And then maybe 2 weeks after that, he asked if I wanted to just go get coffee. He actually asked to go to the mall, which was really funny because we were 20 and above, but he asked to go hang out at the mall. We laugh about that still.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Now, did they have tip-ins back then?
I don't know. It might have been before that even.
Oh, okay.
Or after.
After.
I don't know what that is. So I don't know.
It's pie and coffee and
Yeah.
Anyway, Jason and I, off subject. Jason and I, one of our first times we got together was at a pie place. So that's why I was just asking.
So we went and hung out at the mall, and then we went and walked around Krug Park. And I didn't know this until now. He just was like really broke, so
Aww.
we couldn't do like a date, which was fine. Like
Right.
I'm from the country, so it was good.
Well, what a better way to get to know each other. You
Yeah.
have all that time to just talk and really get to know each
Yep.
other and see if you really like each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so when you found out he had 6 kids, how did that hit you?
Did not faze me at all.
Really?
I have no idea why. Because now when I think, if any of my girls said, I've met a guy with 6 kids, I really don't know what I would do. I would be very concerned, but it wasn't an issue for me. Just a God thing, I guess, because I wasn't afraid of that. And I knew early on. It wasn't like he sprung it on me after hanging out for a couple months or something. I knew it really from the beginning. I mean, we went to the same church, so I already knew that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So from the get-go, you knew he had 6.
Yep. And I was 20. So just, again, thinking back, I'm just thinking, that's crazy.
That's huge.
But,
Because you're honestly just barely out of high school.
yeah.
And a young man with 6 kids is,
Yep.
hey, you want to go to the mall?
Yeah.
So how did you handle the whole dating thing with him having 6 children? Because I'm sure a lot of his weekends were probably consumed with the kids.
He technically had every other weekend. But in the very beginning, we didn't introduce at first. We didn't, just because we wanted for number one, make sure it was even going to be something that was going to be prolonged, like a relationship or whatever. And then when I did meet them, there were a few of the kids that were I think they were just scared, and they didn't know what to think. This was brand new, and they didn't really want me around, and that was okay. I just didn't come around when it was his weekend, or if something would happen and he would get them on a weekend that wasn't his, or even through the week if something happened and their mom needed help with something. We just basically agreed, you're not going to say no to your kids. Like, that would not be okay.
Children come first.
Absolutely.
While you're dating.
Yeah, while you're dating, they come first. And I'm not going to be the person that takes you away from your kids. Like, I'm not okay with that. I wouldn't want to be with someone that would choose anything over their children, as far as somebody they might potentially date or whatever. So that was kind of how it was. And then it wasn't until one of the kids that really, I think she was just scared and unsure when she finally said, okay, well, maybe she can come and have lunch with us. And so I went and just had lunch. And it was like, but I don't want her to stay the whole time. I want her to just be there for lunch, and then she's got to go. Okay, that's fine. And then, that eventually turned into, well, maybe you can stay and, go on a walk with us. Okay, let's do that, And then it turned into, I just gave them space, let them get used to the idea. If I was going to date a man with six kids, I can't be selfish and put myself above that. That's hard they were 8 and younger. So that's hard for kids to wrap their head around, and I wasn't going to, I didn't want to cause more stress. So I just put them first.
Excellent. Yeah.
So that's just how it worked.
Do you know about how long Jeremy waited to speak of you to the children? So the children finally found out that you were there.
It was probably a couple months. I don't really know the exact time frame, but I would say a couple months or so.
That he spoke of you? Now, did he introduce you at that same time?
It was probably right around the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it was quite a while before I actually hung out with them for any extended period of time. Mm-hmm. Just because some of them weren't okay with it yet.
Sure.
Then they wanted time with their dad. They, every other weekend isn't that much.
And especially with 6 of them.
Right. So they wanted time with him. They didn't want to share his attention with anybody else. And when you're newly dating, of course you want to hang out and know about that person. And so it was like, it's fine. We just won't when it's your weekend, that's your weekend with your kids, and that's fine. So that's just how we worked it out, and that was okay.
Yeah, it worked well.
Yeah.
So how did his kiddos accept you? You said that one of them was like, well, she can have lunch. And then it grew from there. But how about the rest? Were the rest, when you came over for lunch, like, ooh, yay, Cheyenne's here? Or were they kind of standoffish? Like,
it just with all of them. I mean, it depended on the kid. The younger ones didn't really know what was going on, so they were fine. I could pick them up and hold them, and they didn't care if they wanted me to. You know, I didn't ever push myself on anybody. One of the boys, it was always so funny. He was young enough, could kind of talk, but he was funny in that if I would try to talk to him, he would grin and just turn the other way. Like, he would not talk to me. And I tease him to this day because I finally won him over with giving him Cheez-Its. And I still tease him to that day that I won him over with food. So then we were best buddies.
Do you keep Cheez-Its on hand now?
Of course, because he's now a teenager and moody, so.
You still need the Cheez-Its.
Yeah, he'll know who he'll know when he hears this, that I'm talking about.
That's funny. Now I'm thinking I'm going to start offering your boys Cheez-Its. And
just offer the boys food for sure, because that's good.
No, I get it. Teenage boys, food is a common communicator. Okay, so what were the challenges with not just dating, because we understand that, it was every other weekend and you took your cues, but prior to us turning on the camera, you had said that there were sacrifices that had to be made.
Yeah, well, when we decided we don't say no. If there's an opportunity for him to get the kids more or whatever it was, we say yes. Like, whether we have plans, whether we have whatever going on, you get the kids. And this even was when I wasn't hanging out with them yet, and we would cancel plans. We would give away concert tickets or whatever it was. And it didn't happen all the time. I don't want it to sound like that. It didn't happen like every weekend or anything like that. But just if something came up with their mom and she needed, hey, I need help, I have to work, or whatever it was, we didn't say no. We took that on. But that was kind of a sacrifice. We gave up time that we could spend getting to know each other or whatever. But we just did it because, again, we put the kids first.
Now, I know that you said that you were okay with that, that never really bothered you. But I know my personality, and that might be hard for me to be looking forward to a concert or to a date of some kind.
It was.
Were you not disappointed at times?
Definitely
Okay.
disappointed, but never mad.
Right.
Never upset with the kids or anything like that. But yeah, it was. There were. Like I said, I know there was at least one concert that I can't tell you who it was at this point,
Right.
But I have a good relationship with my stepkids, and that is more important to me than missing a concert that I can't even remember which one it was.
Right.
And even saying stepkids feels weird because I don't look at them any different than I look at my 5-year-old, who's biologically mine. I just don't. I don't differentiate, or I try my hardest not to, because I think, yes, you're a step-parent, you're labeled that, but when you come into their life and you choose to marry that person with kids, then you have to do everything you can to put them first and make sure that they don't ever feel that separation.
That difference.
Yeah. And that was a big thing because, of course, we didn't have kids for a while. And that was one thing. I didn't ever want them to feel like I treated my daughter differently, my biological daughter differently. And of course now there's a big age gap. The youngest stepkid is 16 and then mine is 5. So that's a big age gap. So yeah, she gets more attention now because she's 5. But I don't differentiate. Like, I have 7 kids. I don't tell people I have 6 stepkids and 1 biological. I don't ever say that. I say I have 6 stepkids, or I have 7 kids, and I have 7 grandkids. They're not my step grandkids. They're my grandkids. That's just how it is.
Don't you think that, and this is just my perception, but I feel like when you say it like that, you're speaking positivity into the relationship.
I think so, because for some reason I feel like sometimes that step parent thing it's like a negative, and even the stepchild thing is a negative, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. Again, a couple of, one of our girls lives with us full time. They come over just to hang out with us. Not just Jeremy. They come to hang out with me. They're like, hey, we want to have a girls' day or whatever, And they still have a good relationship with their mom, too. And that's great. That's what we wanted. I never came to take their mom's spot or to anything like that. It was just, I just want to be a person that you can come to if you need to. And obviously also be there for their dad, and so again, the step-parent thing, the stepchild thing, I feel like sometimes is a negative term. It shouldn't be, but I think sometimes it is. And so, and of course, when I tell people I have 7 kids, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, you have 7 kids? What? And it's always funny. And then, of course, it comes out in the conversation if it's warranted, I guess, If
Right.
it's just in passing, I might not say anything. But if it's like I'm getting to know someone, then of course it's going to come out. But yeah, I don't know if that made any sense at all.
It totally did. So my next question for you would be, you brought up the fact that you didn't want to come in and take their mom's place.
Nope.
How did you handle that when I know growing up as a teenage girl that there would be days when I would just have had it with my mother, and I'm sure she had had it with me too. And how do you handle the girls coming to you and saying, oh my word, my mom, blah, 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 and it's not positive?
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that?
They did it with their mom and their dad. I've had it with my mom.
Oh,
I've had it with
wow.
my
They
dad.
came to you with complaints about Jeremy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I tried to explain to them why. This is why your mom's telling you this. This is why your dad's telling you this. This is why you're not going here. It's not because they're trying to keep you from something fun or whatever. It's because it's not a good idea. Like, here's why. There's not a parent there. None of you guys are paying attention to your surroundings. Like, whatever the situation is. Trying to turn it around. And it was really, it was probably a good position to be in, because while they looked at me like a parent, I wasn't. So it might come across as, oh, okay, so you're not just trying to like keep me from doing something fun or whatever. And never agreeing. And I don't mean that like, oh, you're right. Your mom was ... your dad was whatever. That's the big thing I can so stress is, don't ever disrespect the other parent, whether you're a stepmom or a stepdad. Don't ever disrespect them to their kids, to their whatever. Like, it's just not necessary, and it's not going to help the situation at all. Their mom's doing the best they can, and that's what I tried telling them. Like, she's going off of what you're telling her, and it's just not a good situation, whatever it is, whether it's something they wanted to do, something they wanted to wear, or something like that. We didn't have a lot of that. I don't know. I don't know if it was just kind of, I guess maybe got lucky there, or at least stuff we knew about.
Right.
But that's kind of how I dealt with it. It didn't happen a ton, which was awesome. That they would do that. So, but I can't even remember like specific scenarios necessarily, but just backing them up, backing their mom up, backing Jeremy up,
I love that.
Yeah.
Because as I'm sitting here asking you these questions, I'm thinking to myself, how would I handle that situation? Mm-hmm. And for a moment I thought, well, I just need to be neutral.
Yep.
But
Nope.
no,
Mm-mm.
You're right. I need to reiterate what
and
the
even
parent
if
said.
it was something that I didn't think, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
Maybe I didn't understand. Well, yeah, you go over it all the time. I don't know why. It's a big deal. One of the things that Jeremy had a big rule on was you don't stay the night on a school night. You don't stay the night on a school night. It doesn't happen. Well, all of my best friends growing up were related to me. All my cousins are my best friends.
Small town.
Small town. So we stayed the night with each other all the time. There was no, I mean, if we had school, we'd get up for school the next day, like whatever. And there was one scenario, and it must have been summer, because I think the kids were there extended, and this was after we were married. And Jeremy was gone for the evening till later, and Abby, it was a school night, and Abby asked me if she could stay at a friend's house. I was like, sure, no problem. Like, she'd stayed with this girl multiple times. We knew her mom, like, it was fine.
But she knew the
mom,
rule?
Her mom, she knew the rule.
Okay.
Her mom knew her mom, like, all of us
Right.
was totally okay with this family. And I was like, sure. And so Jeremy calls on his way home, and it's like, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock. He's like, are all the kids in bed? And I'm like, well, yeah, but Abby's staying over at her friend's. And he's like, what? And he's like, kind of frustrated at first. And I'm like, wait a second, I didn't know this rule. And he's like, okay, but she does. And so that was something we all had to talk about, because I didn't know that rule, and I didn't think it was a big deal. So, but in his defense, I was always at my aunt or uncle's house staying with my cousins, so
Right.
we knew we were going to go to bed on time and all that stuff. So, but it was funny.
And make it to school on time.
Yeah.
And get your homework done. And
Yes.
yeah.
So that was something that wasn't even their mom's rule. That was
His.
our house rule that it just hadn't come up yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of funny.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
How did you handle disrespect from the children? How did Jeremy handle disrespect towards you?
What's funny is it never, I mean, I'm not going to say they didn't have generic like attitude with, hey, you need to clean your room or whatever, but he just, I don't know, they just, once we all got to a point where we were all okay with each other, meaning the kids were comfortable with me, you know, we were married, that kind of stuff. If it was, they really were really good for me. Like, they didn't, now when they were younger, yeah, they'd get crazy and, you know, that kind of stuff. But, and if they did, I mean, there might have been a couple times and I would be like, hey, this happened, I'm just, you know, I'm not sure, you know, but he did handle that part of it. And I mean, they never were like, I can't believe you're picking her over me. That we never had any of those situations. So it all was usually fine.
So when you got married, that dynamic had to change with the kids first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how did that transition take place? And was it a smooth transition? Was that harder
The
for the
dynamic
kids?
of respect?
No, I'm sorry, the dynamic of now you're the wife,
Mm-hmm.
so the wife comes first.
I think it kind of gradually just did.
It morphed.
just, yeah. And honestly, again, we left it up to the kids as far as like even our wedding. If you want to be in the wedding, there's a place for you here. If you don't have to be. That's fine. And some of the kids were, and some of the kids weren't.
Was that hard on you?
No,
Okay.
because it wasn't about me.
Kind of
That's
the theme through this whole thing.
That's the way I always looked at it. It wasn't about me. The kids, it was a hard situation. Broken homes are hard situations. No matter who's right or who's wrong or whatever, it's hard on everyone. And I wasn't going to be the person to make that harder. Or I was going to try my hardest not to. So it kind of, now, yes, did we have to finally say, okay, you know, we're married, this is, no, you're not going to decide whether we go on vacation or not. You know what I mean? Like, once that happened, you know, but you have their trust too. And then it's so much easier to do things, you know?
You've grown in a relationship with them.
Exactly. And you just they see that you're respecting you're respecting their feelings. You're showing them like your feelings are valid. The way you are processing this situation is valid and okay. And it's okay that you don't like me right now. That is okay. Perfectly fine. You don't have to. And also, like, just stuff like, you don't have to call me mom, ever. You don't have to hug me. You don't have to do those things. This is all on your time. Yes, if you want to sit on my lap, come and sit on my lap. We'll hang out. We'll do whatever. But you don't have to. Again, giving them that space to get used to the situation. And I think by the time we were engaged and, you know, getting married, we had worked up to that trust level.
How did you handle the kiddos when they started to date? Was that something that you were actively involved in, or?
The kind of unwritten rule was 16, you know, but that's also hard to kind of navigate when it's they're at their mom's sometimes, they're at our house sometimes, you know. We all kind of work together on it, and it really depends on the kid, kind of. But more likely than not, it was their mom and Jeremy, kind of, you know. Now, did I hug at some girls that had some broken hearts or whatever? For sure, you know. Talk to them about it and encourage them to find somebody that would wait for them and be a, you know, it's hard when it's high schoolers because, you know, it's in Jeremy's perfect world, they wouldn't date in high school, you know. As a young teenage girl, it's or a teenage boy, it's hard to get that through their head, you know. But just being there for them, speaking biblical truth about dating, you know, what's okay and what's not okay, you know. And again, being there when there's a broken heart, and there were a few,
Yeah.
which is hard.
Yes.
And their mom was there too.
Oh, sure.
You know, we talked a couple times on that kind of stuff, her and I, about this happened, you know. I don't exactly know what to say, you know, like I reached out to her on a couple occasions, like, this happened, I don't know if you knew this yet, you know, that kind of thing. Because they were at our house when it happened or something like that.
So how is the dynamic between the biological mom and you? How did you foster that relationship to not be a resentful, antagonistic relationship?
Same way. I hope, and we've never really like just sat down and like talked about how all of it went down, but I hope that me not forcing myself on them and giving them the space, I hope that she liked the way that I did it. And at this point, we talk when we see each other. You know, sometimes if there's something going on about the kids, whatever, she'll call me because Jeremy didn't answer or because he's busy or whatever. And a lot of times if it's scheduling issues, she'll call me anyway because he'll usually say, yeah, just talk to Cheyenne because she knows the schedule better, you know, something funny like that. So, I mean, we talk, you know. If we're at a ball game where we're watching one of the kids play, we all sit together, you know. Because again, if the kids see that, I mean, we wouldn't want it to be like a her versus us. Like, that's not okay. Why would you want that for your kids? So,
don't you feel it's healthier for the kids?
Yeah.
To see that unity?
Yep.
That united front when it comes to spending the night rules.
Yep.
Or why you're enforcing something
Yep.
that
Absolutely.
bio mom says. I think it's healthier. It's less confusing
Mm-hmm.
for the kids to think that they have one set of rules here and one set of rules
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yep.
So, being the mother of well, I had a teenage daughter. How did you handle being the female in the house with maybe some issues with clothing?
I don't ever really.
Or even boys. Sometimes boys wear some questionable stuff.
I'm trying to think. Like, the only time really that we ever had any kind of thing was like summer bathing suits, but I don't even really ever remember having any conversation. Maybe when it got to a point where it was like, girls, when you wear a V-neck shirt, wear a tank top under it, you know? But there was never like, I don't want to. Like, we never really had any one-on-one, like, you know.
Knock down, drag out, you know,
I don't
I'm going to
remember
stand
one.
my ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really
Just
don't.
healthy conversation.
And it was more like unaware, like, oh, I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about that.
Right. So, educating them, maybe,
Yeah.
is a good way to look at it. So how about discipline? Because I'm sure you were left alone with the kids at times that they probably needed some form of discipline. How did that factor in?
I had the kids. If Jeremy had a show or something like that, because he's been in a band ever since I met him. Not the same band, but
Right.
And so once we got married, I would, if there was a weekend where he had a show one evening or whatever, I would have him. Jeremy basically said, "You're in charge. Like, you do what you have to do, But again, I'm not gonna say they were ever perfect by any means, but when the boys were younger, you might have to, like, okay, you're separated, you're going here, you're going there, that type of thing. But I don't ever recall a time where they didn't want me to be in that role. Again, I think it stemmed from gaining their respect. Like, we've gotten to this point. Their mom respects me. Obviously, Jeremy does.
Right.
But I think that also was big on their mom's part because they knew that she trusted me too to be there, and she would agree that, hey, you're not doing something that you should be doing because of whatever. And then when they got older, when it came to like grounding or something like that, typically I didn't have to make that call. I might have to necessarily enforce it, like, hey, if they tried to, like, I just want to run over, and no, it's not this day, you're still grounded or whatever, just reinforcing that and knowing that Jeremy's going to back me up and that their mom's going to back me up.
So did you ever get well, you're not my mom, or you can't make me?
I don't think I ever did.
Wow.
So I'm lucky in that, because I don't remember ever, in the beginning, there were definitely times where it was, you could tell that there was not a lot of love going on there.
Yeah.
But again, just, that's okay. You don't have to like me. It's okay.
But you're still gonna not
Right.
go out because you're grounded.
Right.
So still being that.
So I didn't ever really get you can't tell me what to do or whatever. Definitely not, maybe not happy about the decision. Go back up to the room without talking to me, that kind of thing. Definitely.
The pout.
But it would get, it ended fine.
Sure.
Eventually,
This too shall pass.
Yes.
When you guys were married and you guys would have your alone time throughout the week and that weekend and then the next week, how hard of a transition was that for you to then go to 6 kids in your house, bouncing off the walls essentially? Not really, but
Well,
6 kids in a house. You put 2 kids in a house.
Mm-hmm.
And the noise level goes up 10 decibels.
We prepared for it, we always knew, again, we were never like, oh, they're not going to be here because of whatever. Like, we would, if we had to change a plan, we would change a plan, but you just kind of, it's just the expectation. Like, they're not going to sit here and be quiet and do nothing. Like, they're not. They're gonna play, and they're gonna probably get really loud, and they did. And
And they're gonna argue.
They're all so close in age, so that's just how it was gonna be.
Right.
So you just, you have to prepare yourself, I guess, for that, but also prepare a lot more food with all them there. But we went camping a lot, which was super fun.
That's definitely family bonding, don't you think?
We did that a lot, and everybody seemed to love it. Like,
You guys still do that as a family, don't you?
we try. It's harder now to get everybody together because everybody's older, and
Have their own kids and families, and yeah.
yeah, we still love to camp though. Yep.
That's neat. So how do you feel like being a step parent has affected your relationship with Jeremy? I think, when you're dating and you can go home at night, maybe, I don't know, is it easier than when you're married and now you're with, whatever the issues are or whatever the struggles are?
I think it just changes. I think over time it just changes. And again, I don't look at them like his kids, and like they're just our kids, and whether that's they're having a baby or they're going through a hard time, like, they're our kids, and we're there, you know. Just, I think, I mean, I definitely, the dynamic changes because I'm there all the time, but I don't look at them any differently. And it's, I think, giving them the space in the beginning and gradually building that relationship. I mean, now they're, again, 20, almost 25 to 16, and we all like each other. And more than that, like, you know.
You love each other.
We love each other.
Yeah.
And we talk and purposely hang out and, you know.
You enjoy each other.
Yeah. And probably not as much as we want to either, because it's a very different dynamic, because we have a 5-year-old and we have a almost 25-year-old, but we also have 7 grandkids. And so, like, the dynamic of trying to, like, do all that is crazy sometimes. And you have to shift gears and, you know, but it's good, you know, it's all good stuff. And I'm thankful that we put the kids first, because I think if we hadn't, we might not have a good relationship with them. Meaning not just me and them, but Jeremy and them, because they could have resented him, like, you picked her over us, and why would we want to hang out with you? That type of thing, you know? And Jeremy loves his kids. Like, he's a good dad. And so he fought for that, you know? And again, there wasn't ever like a battle between us even. Like, it was
Right.
just, I really think there might have been like one instance when we were dating, and it was one of the instances, like, one of the girls called and wanted to come over. And that was in the time frame where I don't even know if I had met the kids yet. I don't think I had. And my first initial reaction was to be like, well, we had plans. And I'm not kidding, like, immediately I was thinking, would you want to be with someone that would choose a girl that he hasn't really even been dating that long over his kids? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't. So, like, from then on, it was like a no-brainer. Like, that's the kind of man you'd want. Somebody who's gonna be a good dad. So, that's just kind of how it was.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate your openness and your transparency and your honesty. I know that this can be a difficult subject to talk about, you know, because you don't want to throw names out there or
Right.
anything like that.
I think I did on Abby. Sorry, Abby.
We love Abby. But I do appreciate you coming and sitting with me and talking. And I know that a lot of people might have questions for Cheyenne about step parenting and what to do in different situations, or just maybe some encouragement. You can email me at Dyann, Dyann, at graceontheweb.org, and I will make sure Cheyenne gets you gets those messages and can get an answer back to you. Cheyenne, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I'm not obviously an expert. It's literally off experience.
Right.
And what I go off of is that, again, we have good relationships. You know, I have good relationships with all of them, and that's kind of what I'm basing off all of this from.
Did you have a verse or verses or scripture that helped you through the dating process, or maybe through the step parenting process?
My biggest thing, and I've said it before, and I said it on a video that we did at Grace. It was like, it was like a series that Daryl did, and they interviewed Jeremy and I just briefly on something. And I get teary-eyed every time I talk about it, because the one thing they said, like, what would be something that you would advise? Like, what would be the best advice? And my best advice is just to love them. Love them through them not liking you. Love them through maybe downright hating you. Love them through it, because that's what's going to get you to this point where they finally love you back. And I truly feel like that.
And I'm sure a lot of prayer.
Oh, yeah, lots and lots of prayer. Because, yeah, that was hard whenever they didn't like you, because you're thinking, I love this man or whatever, and I really want to be there for him, and I want to do this, but how's that going to work? Like, is he going to even want to continue with the relationship if his kids, don't like you or whatever? And so that's hard. That's part of it. But yeah, just praying, like, what is the right way to go about this? And that was the biggest thing that I was getting was, love them no matter what. Give them space to feel what they're feeling, because again, it's valid and everything. So,
And especially when they're children.
yeah.
They're trying to just, grow themselves, let alone throw in all these emotions and feelings.
Yep.
And I like what you said, love them through it.
Yep.
Pray for them. Pray the Holy Spirit would just be all over your relationships with the kids and with your significant other.
And pray for their other parent.
Yes.
Pray for their mom or their dad, whatever it is. Pray for them, because it's hard anyway,
Right.
And so pray for them. And
Yeah.
I do, and I have, and I continue to. And all the kids are almost to the age now where they're almost all out of school, and I'm still going to pray for their mom, because it's just the right thing to do.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining us,
welcome.
and especially during this quarantine time, and for sharing your thoughts and your heart. I can really see your love for your kiddos. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed today's coffee chat, and I hope you'll join us again next week. Have a good day.